Imagine a crime scene with no body, no murder weapon, not a single drop of blood. Now, imagine a man being sent to prison for murder based on that complete lack of evidence. It sounds like something out of a movie, but for one small town, this was a terrifying reality. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most perplexing cases in American legal history, a case that still sends shivers down the spines of the jurors who delivered the guilty verdict. This isn't just a story about a missing person. It's a story about a justice system pushed to its absolute limit, a community torn apart by suspicion, and a conviction that many believe was a grave mistake. The year was 1957, in the quiet, church-going town of Sycamore, Illinois. Everyone knew everyone, and serious crime was practically unheard of. That all changed on the night of December 3rd, when a 7-year-old girl named Maria Ridulph vanished without a trace while playing outside in the snow with her friend. One moment she was there, laughing under the streetlights, and the next, she was gone. The only clue was a story from her friend about a strange man who called himself Johnny. He'd given them piggyback rides before Maria disappeared with him, promising to bring her back. He never did. The disappearance sparked one of the largest manhunts in FBI history at the time. President Eisenhower and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover were personally briefed on the case. Agents swarmed the small town, interviewing hundreds of people, chasing down every possible lead. The prime suspect was a local 18-year-old named John Tessier, a young man who lived just around the corner and matched the description of Johnny. He had an alibi. He claimed he was in Rockford, 40 miles away, enlisting in the Air Force. The FBI checked it out. His parents confirmed he left town that day, and multiple military officials backed up his story. With a seemingly airtight alibi, the investigation into John Tessier went cold, and he was cleared. The case of the missing little girl baffled everyone. And for 5 long decades, Maria Ridulph's file gathered dust, becoming one of the nation's most haunting cold cases. For 51 years, Maria's family lived in a state of agonizing uncertainty. The case was a ghost that haunted the town of Sycamore. Then, in 2008, something incredible happened. John Tessier's half-sister, who had been a child at the time of the disappearance, came forward with a shocking deathbed confession from their mother. She claimed that on her deathbed, their mother had admitted that John wasn't in Rockford that night. She had lied to the police to protect her son. According to her, John Tessier was indeed the Johnny who had taken Maria. This single statement was enough to reopen the half-century-old investigation. Authorities tracked down John Tessier, now a 72-year-old man living in Seattle under the name Jack McCullough. He was a retired police officer, a grandfather, a respected member of his community. His life was turned upside down when he was arrested and extradited back to Illinois to stand trial for a murder that happened when he was just a teenager. The old case files were dusted off, and a new prosecution began. But here's where the story takes an even stranger turn. The prosecution's case was built almost entirely on circumstantial evidence and fading memories. There was still no body, no physical evidence linking McCullough to the crime. The star witness was Maria's childhood friend, now an elderly woman, who identified a 50-year-old photograph of McCullough in a photo lineup. Think about that for a second. Identifying a teenage face from a fleeting memory more than half a century later. It's a huge ask for anyone. The defense argued that this was impossible. They pointed to McCullough's original FBI-verified alibi. They had phone records showing he made a Carlec call from Rockford, near the recruitment center, at the exact time the abduction was happening in Sycamore. This wasn't just his parents saying he was gone. This was documented proof from the 1950s. They argued that the mother's supposed deathbed confession was unreliable hearsay, possibly coerced or misremembered by a sister with whom McCullough had a strained relationship. The defense painted a picture of a man with a solid alibi being railroaded by a prosecutor eager to close a famous cold case. The courtroom drama was intense. The prosecution presented the sister's testimony as the key that unlocked the whole mystery. They argued that the mother's lie was the only reason McCullough got away with it for so long. They portrayed him as a predator who had hidden in plain sight for decades, building a new life on a foundation of lies. They brought in jailhouse informants who claimed McCullough had made incriminating statements while awaiting trial. The prosecution's narrative was powerful, a long-delayed justice for a little girl and her family. On the other side, the defense tore into the prosecution's case. They questioned the reliability of the jailhouse informants, who often received deals in exchange for their testimony. They relentlessly attacked the photo identification, calling it suggestive and deeply flawed, and they kept coming back to that alibi. How could a man be in two places at once? The phone call from Rockford was a concrete piece of evidence from 1957 that seemed to make his presence in Sycamore physically impossible. The entire case rested on a razor's edge. Do you believe a 50-year-old memory and a second-hand deathbed confession, or do you believe the original FBI investigation and documented phone records? The jury was faced with an impossible decision. They deliberated for days, torn between the emotional weight of a child's murder and the gaping holes in the evidence. There was no DNA, no murder weapon, no confession from McCullough himself. The body of a child, presumed to be Maria, had been found months after her disappearance. But it was too decomposed to yield any useful forensic evidence or even a definitive cause of death. So, nobody was ever technically linked to this crime. At trial, the jury had to decide guilt beyond a reasonable doubt with almost no tangible proof. In a stunning verdict, the jury found Jack McCullough guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison. Justice, it seemed, had finally been served. Maria's family felt a sense of closure after 55 long years of pain. The prosecutor was praised for solving the unsolvable. But for some of the jurors, the verdict didn't bring peace. It brought a lifetime of doubt. Several jurors later came forward to express their deep regret, saying they felt pressured to convict and were never truly certain of his guilt. They were haunted by the alibi, by the lack of evidence, and by the feeling that they might have sent an innocent man to die in prison. The story doesn't end there. After McCullough was convicted, a new state's attorney was elected. He decided to take a fresh, impartial look at the entire case file, from the 1957 FBI reports to the 2012 trial transcripts. What he found was shocking. He discovered stacks of previously ignored or undisclosed evidence from the original investigation that strongly supported McCullough's alibi. The phone records were even more detailed than presented at trial. There were reports from the original investigators who had thoroughly vetted and believed McCullough's alibi. The new prosecutor concluded that Jack McCullough was, without a doubt, innocent. He believed a massive injustice had occurred. In an almost unprecedented move, the prosecutor who had just inherited the office filed a motion to throw out the conviction. He argued that his predecessor had built a case on questionable evidence while ignoring mountains of information that pointed to innocence. The court agreed. After spending nearly 4 years in prison, Jack McCullough, now an old and frail man, was exonerated and walked free. A judge officially declared him innocent. The conviction was vacated, erased as if it never happened. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us with a case that is, once again, cold. If Jack McCullough didn't do it, who did? The real killer may have lived out their life and died without ever facing justice. It also leaves us with profound questions about our legal system. How can a man be convicted of murder with so little evidence? How much should we rely on eyewitness testimony from decades ago? And what does it say when the very jurors who hand down a verdict are later tormented by their decision? The case of Maria Ridulph is a tragic story from every angle. It's a story of a lost child, a family shattered by grief, and a man who lost years of his life to a conviction that was ultimately deemed a mistake. It is a chilling reminder that the pursuit of justice can sometimes lead us further away from the truth. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most complex and controversial cases. If you find these legal mysteries as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more true crime analysis. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the justice system got it right in the end, or was this a failure at every level? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.